Hello 673 subscribers. Today I'm going to show you what is the difference between $100 voice AI agent, chatbot, or automation versus multiple $1,000 complex AI solution that you can sell to other businesses. We'll jump into my canvas, I'll show you how it works, what are the different use cases, and I'll also share the template so that you can just copy and paste it to your next project. The difference between me and other YouTubers is that I've been running my agency for a year and a half now. And besides building dozens of different AI solutions, I've been talking to hundreds and hundreds of different businesses because the primary source of leads besides the referrals that we receive are cold emails. So essentially the cold outreach. So I know what is the difference between the commodity and the actually valuable things that the businesses are willing to pay money for. Okay, so let's start with the basics. When I say voice AI agents, again, it doesn't matter either it's inbound or outbound. Usually we build everything on either Vapi or Synthflow, primarily Vapi, but sometimes we do use Synthflow. For the chatbots or text-based AI assistants, we almost always use Voiceflow plus some other external apps, and I'll show you on the real use cases how it can be applied, especially for, let's say, a knowledge base. It can be connected to the social media, website, or email as an automation assistant. Or for the automations, again, it's either Make, Zapier, or BuildShip. There are a lot of use cases where you would need to build something more custom, but again, workflow, sales, content, financial, onboarding. We will primarily talk about just the agents, but all these things can be applied to the automations, and I'll probably do a separate video explaining everything. Okay, so the advanced feature that can higher up the price of the thing that you sell are long-term memory. Again, this is a necessity that you need to provide. And this is not the feature that you would probably talk to the businesses as a benefit for your service, right? You're probably not going to say, hey, we have a long-term memory on all of our assistants, because it's a must. But again, it's not as straightforward to do that still right now. Obviously, the builders that you just copy your website and paste it there, that creates everything from scratch in like a few minutes, they have it. But if you build more complex solution, let's say on the Voiceflow, you need to use an external function, and I'll show you how it works to save everything in one variable so that you can reference it in your next prompt and provide it as a context. Accurate knowledge-based responses, this is obviously very, very important. Knowledge base is not something new, it's been here for over a year now, but the difference is how AI process this information and provide a response. More importantly, it's very important how you structure the information inside the knowledge base, what format you use. So if you are scraping the information from the website, how do you actually do that? Third-party connections. This thing is the most important part, because if you are willing to provide complex solutions, or if you're willing to talk to bigger businesses, usually they have a very specific workflow inside their team, or with a process related to interacting with their customers. And this usually the process requires connections to other like CRM, ERP, management software, calendars. Calendars are not as straightforward, not as simple. Rather, sorry, it is simple, but it's more related to like service-based businesses that like you need to schedule appointments for. Okay, and we'll also discuss on how you can do that. Sharp human handoff. I will and I am planning to record another video on this topic, specifically on how you can transfer conversations to a real human, either the voice conversations when a customer talks to the voice AI agent, and do the human handoff on like the real manager on the phone, or for the chatbots, how you can manage everything. I'll give you some context here later on, but more complex video coming soon. Prompt engineering, pretty straightforward, and the client management and experience. Again, this is how you interact with the client, what information you provide to the client so that he's happy with the results, and he see how it's valuable. Because one thing is to build the solution, but another thing, if you are willing to charge a retainer. Again, so for example, our model is we charge one-time payment, then we charge a small retainer, usually like $400 to $1,000. So in order for the business to pay you that money, you need to provide some context. Okay, so what you're doing every month, so what are results the voice AI or chatbot gets, how many conversations, what are the conversation summaries, the transcripts, so all these things, and we'll discuss it later on. Okay, so if we go to my Voiceflow project here, by the way, this whole template will be in my resource hub. It's free, first link in the description. So everything, all the materials that I show and all of my YouTube tutorials are available for free in my resource hub. Okay, long-term memory. This is where you would save the whole conversation with the user into one specific variable and then use it as a context. Again, so this is how it's going to be done. Basically, this is a set step from one of the previous projects. Let's say this is the greeting and we are capturing the user reply. Then a user says something like, hi. We have a memory function here. This is a function that can be found here if you are willing to use this function in your next project. So let's say you copy my template and you want to use it, you can either download it from the Voiceflow official website functions page, or you can just copy, select it here, export, and then you do the import here, you choose the file, and it's done. So how it works, essentially, you map the variables here. Sorry, let's say. So you map the variables here. So last utterance is the utterance that the user provides. Last response is the response of the chatbot. So let's say hi, when you say hi, bot says, hi, how are you? So the hi, how are you is the response and hi is the utterance, but we want to save both of these things. Why? Because let's say the conversation goes in like 4 or 5 steps. It's better when for the next response for AI to understand what it already said so that you can it can not repeat itself or said, okay, I already talked about it, let me explain it again. So it's more it's more human touch. So this is why we save both of these things as well as the custom memory. So you need to create a custom memory or any variable. Usually we just use custom memory. So essentially we are mapping last utterance to the last utterance, custom memory to the previous custom memory, because on each step we refresh the memory. So we provide, okay, so this is the old memory, this is the new utterance, and this is the new response. Save the whole thing into the custom memory. Okay, I think it's pretty straightforward. I have a lot of tutorials on this YouTube channel where I cover this in more details. Okay, now accurate knowledge base. This is the fun part. So let's say we say, hi, what's your question? We're capturing the user response, reply, and then Voiceflow has a response AI step, and you can, for the data source, you can use the knowledge base, right? So in the knowledge base, let's say you provide some information. We go, let's say, to the website, just Control C and go here. I already did it, so we Control V. Anyway, so let's say we have the information in our knowledge base. So what we can do, and this is the easiest part, and this is what 99.9% of people do, and it is accurate, right? So the responses are pretty accurate because Voiceflow has a great ROC database, knowledge base. But you can specify, okay, so the question is last utterance from here, and the instructions are answer the user question. You can override the prompt. So let's say we want to use the GPT-4o model. We specify the temperature, max token, system prompt. Okay, so it is pretty straightforward. The problem is that when you have either very similar, say if you're working with FAQs with a business that have hundreds of different FAQs, and some questions and responses might be similar, but the only difference is in the number, right? Especially, this is very, it's very visible when you are working with the prices. So let's say with the different price tiers, So if you are just using the internal response AI block, it's not going to be as accurate. Again, it depends on the use case, but I would not recommend you to use it yourself. Okay, so what you can do is you can kind of do the same thing, but using the API call. Again, guys, for all of the things, you don't need to know how to code. We primarily build our solutions using no or low code things. And the API, I do not consider API requests and working with API responses as a no code or like hard code thing. So it's primarily like no code. Sorry, I messed up. Okay, so API requests are not hard code things, right? So it's low code solutions. Okay, so it doesn't matter. So you would call the API of the Voiceflow knowledge base, right? So this is the query, and you can go to the Voiceflow documentation and go to the query endpoints and find everything here. They have very great documentation, or again, just copy my template. So this is an endpoint. Then for the authorization, you get the key. So essentially, let's say this is your project. You go to here, you copy the key, and you paste it. You paste it here, accept content type, and this is the request. These are kind of the settings as well as the question from the user. This will do the same exact thing as in here. So you also have like the settings here for the AI model, for the knowledge base, the temperature, the chunk limit, as well as the system prompt. So it's like kind of doing the similar thing as in the native block, but using the API call. Why would we do that? Because instead of just a response, let's say here, when we ask a question, okay, so let's actually ask the question. So what do you sell? Okay, so it will provide us a response from the knowledge base, right? So instead of providing a response, we are getting chunks. Again, I have a few videos explaining what the chunks mean, but essentially, since this is a RAG database, here we specify, okay, so how many chunks do we want to get from the API call? So let's say we call the knowledge base, and it will find an information from the knowledge base stored in like chunks, paragraphs, whatever. And instead of crafting the response right away, it will just provide us the most relevant information in chunks to this specific question. So we just have the chunks, right? So this is how it's going to work, right? We can like, okay, so if we go here and if we start and if we ask the same question, what do you sell? So it will not provide us a response. It will provide a huge text as a reference on the information that it found from our knowledge base, which is relevant to this specific question. Okay, now, then let's say this is the JavaScript to do some things. Again, just go watch other YouTube videos on this topic. But essentially, we are saving the chunks into the knowledge base context variable. And now we have this reference information, and we can work with it by providing it to the AI as a reference. So we can more precisely control how we want to work with this context, right? And here, as you can see, I'm providing the prompt, and in the prompt I use, okay, so knowledge base context. I'm doing the tags, and we'll cover it in the when we'll talk about prompt engineering, but essentially, so these are like the tags, and here we provide these paragraphs as a context. So now the AI will use this context and provide us a more accurate response based on the whole prompt. And also we can specify, okay, so this is the knowledge base context, and also this is a context for the memory, for the conversation history. So here, let's say when we are asking a question and when we are like asking here essentially knowledge base to provide a response, we're not specifying the conversation history because maybe it is relevant. So maybe the answer here was already answered in the previous on the previous like messages, right? So why would AI like respond with the same thing? It's kind of like it can, but it's not as human. So what we would do, let's say here, AI will understand that the context here is very similar to what it already provided. And it can say, hey, if you remember, we already talked about it. So this was my response, and maybe structure it a bit differently. If the last time, obviously, if the user asks the same question, it means that the last time he didn't catch that. So maybe this will be much more conversational path that the user can go to. Okay, so this is how you can like work with the knowledge base on the basic format. If we are going more in depth, obviously which is I think even more important, on how do you actually store the information about the business inside your knowledge base. So if you go to the Voiceflow knowledge base tab, you can like upload the plain text, the files like PDF, URL, sitemap, so it can like scrape it automatically, or some integrations. But again, for the integrations, it's just the Zendesk. But the problem is that, let's say, and I was actually showing this thing in my previous tutorial when I was providing a chatbot that we have sold to an insurance company. So let's say we have a lot of pages on the website. So like, yeah, sure, you can do it through the sitemap, but it's going to be accurate, so it will scrape the information, but the information will not be structured. So that's where you use third-party apps like Firecrawl that will like scrape the information from the website and will structure it in the markdown format. So let's say we crawl the URL. So for the options, we'll do the limit to. Okay, so run. It will scrape 10 pages, but instead of just, just provide you instead of just providing you the text, it will format this text in markdown format. And if you copy this and go to your knowledge base and paste it like here, and not just as a pure scrape, AI will have an easier time to identify what is the information, since again, it's formatted correctly. So it understands that, okay, so what is the headings, what are the headings, what are the menu items, etc. So I would highly suggest you, if you are scraping the website, do not use the internal Webflow interface, just use external apps, okay? So now, same thing applies to like tabular data. When, let's say, you have an Excel spreadsheet that you need to upload to the knowledge base, you do not have an ability to upload it here as the file. So what you can do, you can kind of do just the text in markdown format. So you can ask AI, you just go to ChatGPT, upload the file, and say, hey, analyze the file and output the same file in markdown format, right? And then you upload it as text. Again, it is like kind of doable, but it's not the best way to do that. Voiceflow has APIs to do that. So like if you go to document API endpoints, upload table data, again, it's very straightforward here. You kind of provide the heading as the header is your authorization key, the API key, and you can like specify some things here. But the problem, like essentially you specify, okay, so what are the different columns and what is each item for each column. You can do it here inside the Voiceflow API interface, but you can also do it using the Postman. And I actually was talking about this thing in my previous tutorial about the insurance agency. So let's say here I have and in my knowledge base, it's there. So I shared I shared the whole collection, so you can import it. And if you go here to the table, so this is a request to the Voiceflow API. So this is the endpoint. These are the headers. So you change your API key here. And for the body, this is where you specify, okay, so what table do you want to do? So let's say here for the searchable field, so we have class, description. So we have like 3 columns, and these are the items. So this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 1, column 2, column 3. This is the second row, third row. So this is how you specify the tabular data. So what I would suggest you to do is just go to my resource hub, import this specific collection, go here, copy, Control C, Control Control A, Control C, copy this thing, go to something like Claude, paste it here, and say, hey, I want, and also like upload your spreadsheet and say, hey, I uploaded the spreadsheet. Can you please format it in the format that I have just provided as a text? So it will provide this as a JSON, and then you like paste it here and send, and it will send this information to your knowledge base. Again, go watch my previous tutorial on the insurance agency chatbot. Okay, so again, what I'm saying is that there are a lot of different ways how you can first structure the knowledge base, as well as how you can retrieve information from the knowledge base. For more complex queries, we also use sometimes an external apps, as I mentioned. So for example, one of them is Vectorshift. It is like pretty cool platform. They're still like very new, but they have some functionalities which Voiceflow does not. So they have a lot of the LLM like default blocks. Again, Voiceflow has kind of similar things with the functions. So they have a function for, let's say, calling the Gemini or calling the OpenAI. But if you're like trying to stick with the just no code, so this is the like, you can kind of choose the, let's say, Azure model, and you can like provide it here. They have their own keys, or you can specify your own key. And for the knowledge base, what is very interesting, you can upload much more things here. Like you can even, for data loaders, as you can see, you have the CSV, so you don't need to upload it through the API. So you can essentially upload the CSV here, and they even have like YouTube, so you can chat with the video on YouTube. And I am planning to record another tutorial. So essentially, like, you are uploading all of these things here. So let's say, instead of like calling the API of the Voiceflow, so you upload the spreadsheet here, and then you like connect this like models together, and you would need to, instead of like here, let's say when we are calling the knowledge base through the API, instead of like calling the Voiceflow API, you would call the Vectorshift API and provide like here authorization, similar thing, and provide here like the question of the user. So it will go to this specific flow, you know, get the CSV as the context. Again, it's might not be as straightforward. So I have multiple videos where I cover Vectorshift. Again, you can even find some templates on my resource hub where all of these calls are present, but I'm not sure they changed the interface. So if we go to here, whatever, like, so yeah, so I'm not gonna go deep into this right now. Okay, so this is how you improve your knowledge base and can craft much better responses. Okay, now third-party connections. This is, as I mentioned before, this is the most important part, because a lot of businesses would need to connect to their external apps. And the easiest way to do that is to use like Make. So for example, we can here, so we can just go to Make. Like this is my test account, create some random scenario, trigger the webhook, provide the webhook here, provide the email here, and you're kind of done, right? So you can connect a lot of different apps. So you create a new scenario, you choose the like webhook, custom webhook, okay, you add one, save, copy, okay, you go here, you paste the webhook, and now you're done. You need to only provide the information that you want to pass. So let's say here we're asking what's your email. Sorry, we're capturing the email into the email variable, and we are passing this variable into this endpoint or the webhook. So let's actually save it and test this one out. So if it will ask us for the email. Let's say it's this. So now it will send so it sent this email as a webhook. Then you can like create all other apps, do something with this email, and output the response as a webhook response. It's very straightforward. Again, for the more complex things, you would need to call the APIs of the apps, especially if these are like some sort of an SAP Business One ERPs, which are pretty old school and not on Make. So you would do it like through the just the API call through the endpoint. So this is an example of the API call to Airtable, I think. Whatever. Yeah, so this is the Airtable. So for the authorization, all these things. Again, not gonna go into the APIs. I think you got the idea. So you can easily do that, and you should do that. And I think you need to mention this in your pitch. So instead of just saying, "Hey, we're gonna do this and this and this," and you must essentially, like, I am convinced that this is a must. So you need to say, okay, we will connect to all of the tools that you currently use through the APIs. Like, you can put a disclaimer if they do have and provide the APIs. Again, because not all softwares do, especially if you're working with the local like businesses which still stick with like their 20 years old softwares, they might not have APIs. So you like kind of need to do some workarounds, maybe export some things from their like software, maybe import it to Airtable or Subbase, and then do something with it. Anyways, I think you get the idea. This is a must. Now, so if we go to the human handoff, again, guys, I will probably the next video on this channel will be about the human handoff, where I will go in depth on how you can do that. But like, let me provide you just the overview. So essentially, first you need to understand how you are going to manage the whole like conversations inside the bot. So either it's managed by your team, or you are asking your client to manage it, or you're kind of do the 50-50 approach, when if there's an error, you handle it, and when there's an actual question, they handle it. Anyways, so it depends on your like business model. But essentially, you cannot do that inside that. They have like inside your bot, you have like the transcript, but usually no one use it. So you have an external app. So let's say there's one called Chat Dash, another called Voiceflow. So here you kind of essentially create and these are, and I'll also mention Chat Dash as a dashboard for that you can provide to your client. So like you can create your agency profile, and this will be like a full dashboard that you can white label, provide your logo, provide your domain name, and you can give access to your client and say, hey, we will also, again, this is, I would not recommend you to use it as an upsell. So like, hey, if you're gonna pay us $100 more, we'll also provide you the dashboard. No, this is a bullshit. I will highly suggest you to just use it as a default. So for all our solutions, we do provide you a dashboard where you manage all of the where you can see how many conversations has been done, how these conversations went, when you can see all the transcripts. And also, again, when you have already the chatbot, yeah, so it's as the client is the preview. Yeah, so like this is how kind of the client will see it. So the analytics dashboard, and then for the conversations here, you will see all the conversations with the user. So they do have a thing called human handoff like enabled. It will enable a button on your on your chatbot, and when the user will click this button, they will be transferred to a human, and the conversation will be open. So like in the settings, if you live agent, so if you enable it, you will actually be able, so like this is the bot, so they will have like a window here to chat to live agent, and you will have a notification in your when they go here. So they'll have okay, so the conversation, and here's the notification that the user wants to talk to the agent. Again, I will guys talk about this a bit more. Actually, I've been on the chat yesterday with the founder of the Chat Dash, and we are talking on how to make it better. Like I'm giving some suggestions, and yeah, I'm sure like this is still very new software. They're a small team, but they are developing this thing pretty hard. Okay, so for the Voiceflow, this is kind of the same thing. So you can connect your Voiceflow API key here. I think like I showed it multiple times on my channel. So kind of create an assistant here, you create your own API key, and this is the assistant, right? So this is a flow from here. It's already working, right? So from the start, Jesus. Okay. So what's that? Okay, so yeah, so it's this flow, it's looping us inside, and this is here, right? So we can chat hi again, and it will say something something like hey again. Anyways, so in the conversations, and you can also kind of white label it and provide it as with some sort of a dashboard. So for the conversations, you can see the conversation here, but the difference is that you can you will not be able to see it here since this is the preview. But when you see a conversation with a customer, you can hop on your client whatever, like your client managers can hop on the conversation right away. They can chat, like provide some answers, and then like assign it back to the AI. So like, let's say here, when there's an intent transfer to a human, when something will be mentioned inside the chat, like I want to talk to a human, I want to talk to a manager, let's say it will say transferring you to a real agent. What we usually do, we are making the API call to make and doing the Slack notification, Slack or WhatsApp, depending on what business prefers. Sometimes we do on the email, but it's not as easy, and like they don't usually respond to it pretty well. So let's say when a user goes to this intent, it means that he wants to talk to the agent. We're saying, okay, so transferring you to a real agent, doing the API call to Slack, like saying, hey, there is one person with this data, want to talk to a real agent, and then like go to your essentially Voiceflow, and they go to the Voiceflow, they find the conversation, and they chat with this thing. Again, guys, so there are like multiple ways. I forgot to mention one thing. This is kind of the daddy of the human handoffs, right? This is the Zendesk, and like if your client have a lot of complex queries from their customers, and if you are helping them to develop the whole system, not just the chatbot, I would highly suggest you to integrate the Zendesk in your workflow. So it's not a live human handoff, but there are some workarounds that you can do. So essentially, like the call the function, and Voiceflow has a function, Voiceflow functions. They have a function called Zendesk. Again, I will have everything on my, whatever, like, where is it? Zendesk. Yeah, so they have multiple functions in the Zendesk. I will have it on my next tutorial, but like you can create a ticket in Zendesk, we'll send a notification to the team, they'll work with it, then they'll mark the conversation as done, then the user can continue to talk to the AI. Anyways, so it's more for the more complex and bigger companies, but it is an option, obviously. Now, for the prompt engineering, I want to mention a few things, and we are always developing like new ways to provide better prompts. As you can see, these are like kind of the markdown format to make this is the heading, I think 2, size 2, which we usually use. We usually use the dividers so that we can divide the different sections. And what we started to use recently, and actually shout out to Winston from the Discord of the Voiceflow, he got me this idea to use the tags to separate the context information. So for example, like instead of just saying, hey, like this is the last user utterance and provide the last user utterance, we actually use the tags to separate the last user utterance so that it's easier again for AI to understand that this is exactly the utterance. Same thing applies here, right? So instead of like just providing the knowledge base context, because let's say we do not provide the tags, so maybe sometimes AI might think that this will be also like, because there are no separations, like maybe it will not classify this as a separator, so it will think that this is the whole knowledge base context, right? And it will miss like the memory. Again, it's not what usually happens, especially if you're gonna use higher models like GPT-4o, but from time to time it happens, so that's why we started to use the tags. Okay, now also as you can see, this is one of the prompt examples that we use to classify the intent of the user. So for example, here this is the set AI step, not the response. The idea for this prompt is to classify. So let's say we are receiving a like utterance from the user, we need to classify this utterance, and let's say if this is the conversational utterance, output 1, if this is the business related utterance, output 2, output 3. So then what we do, we usually do the condition, and let's say we are either, so like our goal is to save either 1 like number 1, number 2, or number 3 to intent identifier variable. And here, if we do the condition variable intent identifier, and we say, okay, so if this variable is 1, it means that it outputs, or it classified this intent as a conversational utterance, and output 1, do one thing. If it's like do another condition, if it's 2, do another thing. So what I was like, you can see how I structured pretty clearly. So what do we need? And then for the rules, as you can see here, I like not only put must output only numbers 1, 2, 3, I also make it bold so that it clearly understand what we need. So no formatting, no additional symbols, no words, just 1. Because again, for the condition, we need to have just 1. So even if it's going to be 1 dot, it's not going to be not going to take this specific condition and will not go to this flow. So it will break. Okay. Now, the last thing that I want to mention is the client management and experience. Just a few words. Obviously, for the client management, I already mentioned it. Either like you will eventually use either Chat or Voiceflow, so you better record some tutorials. So I would highly suggest you to record maybe like 10-20 minutes walkthrough, just a video recording for the client, maybe for all of them. Or again, I don't think that you have like tens and hundreds of different clients, so you can create for each. So when you onboard the client, you create a separate video where you explain, okay, so this is your dashboard, this is what you can do on the dashboard, so this is how you manage all your conversations. And so like it's very, very clear. Plus, again, set up all the notifications through like Make or whatever. And also what I would highly suggest is you to send a weekly updates to the customer. Usually we do that on Mondays. So even if they have all the information, all the stats available, let's say sometimes we do everything in Airtable and do the custom interfaces to provide like the information on the previous interactions of the client, of the users with the chatbot or with the voice bot. But what I like also found is that since we are like working with primarily old school bigger businesses, medium-sized businesses, they like still use emails a lot, and we usually just do either the screenshot or export the report and provide it as an weekly update and say, hey guys, a weekly update Monday. This is the information from the previous week. This is what we are working on. These are some of the things that we noticed we are fixing. Again, if you are willing to charge the retainer, if you like charge $20, $30, $50, $100 retainer just for the tokens and maybe some small margin, I don't think that it's necessary. But if you're charging the higher prices, again, like don't understand me correctly. If you're gonna do that, this is not a justification for you to charge higher prices. No, like this is a must, right? If you do, but you need to have a specific reason why would you charge like $500 instead of like 100. Hey, again, thanks for watching. This template will be available in my resource hub. It's free, so go watch, like go download it and watch all of my other tutorials. So I guess thanks for watching. Peace.